Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the very first episode of Secondhand. You may recognize us from the non-critically acclaimed YouTube smash failure, Warm Yogurt on Your Back. I am Wayne.
I am Brandon.
And this is what I like to call coffee shop conversation. Little something that Brandon and I were discussing earlier, that we want to cover some more intellectual topics, the type of things that you would just randomly converse with in a diner over a cup of coffee and a smoke with a couple of friends. So I figure, what the hell, let's give it a shot and see where it goes from there. So our first topic tonight is going to be mythological and legendary creatures and scenarios. So, you good to go with this, Brandon?
To let everybody know, I have no idea what's going on other than the topic. This is his show, so I'm going to do what he usually does, which is wing it and give mean faces. I'm ready.
All right. Well, as you and I both know, I like that. As you and I both know, I am a fan of the pirate culture.
Fucking right.
And as such, there are so many mythological and legendary creatures associated with pirate myth.
Like krakens?
And lore. Krakens, sirens, mermaids, that type of thing. I was actually just reading an article recently on mermaids, and it just intrigued the living hell out of me. So I figured, that was kind of the starting point of it. So, upon reading it, it was learning that there is just so many different types of mermaids that it's fucking unreal. It's like every country of origin has their own story of it. Every time story is told, a different version is told of it. Everything
much like Sasquatch?
Much like what? I'm sorry?
Sasquatch.
I lost your voice.
Much like Sasquatch. Bigfoot.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we're going to cover that down the line. That's okay. One of the points of interest there. But from Hans Christian Andersen's original Little Mermaid tale, to the way Disney adapted it to the depiction of mermaids in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. It's subtle differences, but those subtle differences told in their perspective just changed the whole creature in general, And like I said, Japanese have their own version, Norwegian, Australian cultures.
Well, give me the base example of what is considered a mermaid to standard cultures, just in general.
In general, yeah. From what I'm gathering, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. From what I'm gathering, it is typically a sea creature's lower half with a male or a female human torso.
Okay.
Is the typical depiction of merfolk, as it's called, I guess.
This is actually not one of my topics of expertise by any means. It never really fascinated me, but I'm intrigued by this. Are sirens the same as mermaid?
No. Actually, I thought of that because, like in some Greek and Roman mythologies, reading about sirens, sometimes they're just depicted as female forms. Sometimes they're depicted as female body with wings of a bird. Sometimes it's the body of a bird with the face of a female. Sometimes it's the body and face of a female with the bird legs. All of them are inclusive of the singing, though.
Right.
The singing, which draws the sailors in and causes them to crash on the rocks. Now, going back to the pop culture reference.
By the way, real quick, I know we're still talking about this, but real quick, you just made my brain spin, my gears spin on a few other things that we're working on.
Okay.
Sirens, pirates led to their doom.
Oh, absolutely. I'm taking notes as we're talking. So
Good.
And for some fucking reason, you and I have like this thing going.
We have ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN 8 the Ocho. But so I know exactly what you're talking about. But back to what I was saying, referencing the Pirates of the Caribbean pop culture reference. The mermaids sang to lure the sailors in, to which they would basically drown them and eat them.
Was that the purpose of the mermaids in all cultures? Was it similar that they would take the sailors to eat them, kill them?
In some stories, they were taken and eaten. Some stories, they were taken as mates. Some stories, it was basically inadvertent revenge. It was just, sorry, you're the poor bastard that showed up on my doorstep, so I'm taking it out on you. Type deal. So it's, like I said, I mean, literally, there are thousands and thousands of stories and depictions of mermaids.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's literally just mind-blowing that we don't even have enough time to actually get into.
Well, I knew maritime, they had, I thought it was just them, like it was just the sailors of olden times up till now that had these types of stories, but I didn't know it was cultural based on, like, just, that's actually pretty cool, isn't it? I think that's really pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just reading more into it was it just intrigued the living hell out of me. And I did like a Wikipedia surf.
Yeah.
Where I just typed in mermaids and I started reading on mermaids and then I saw like sirens. So I click on sirens and I start reading about sirens and then I see kraken. So I click on kraken and then it just took me through this long list of mythological creatures that are, it's like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon with fucking mythological creatures.
Yeah.
Because
he's related to the
each
kraken.
one is somehow referenced to the other through just one small detail that's changed in a story and it creates a whole new mythological creature. And it was so intriguing and fascinating that I just literally just spent hours Wikipedia surfing all these different mythological creatures and thought it was like really cool as shit. And I figured, why not? Let's talk about it,
Well, my question is, if there is a connection between all of the different types like kraken and so on and so forth, what do you think is the animal that actually contributes to that connection?
Well, see, with the kraken, it is most commonly depicted as a giant squid.
Right.
Okay. Now, there is scientific proof to back up the existence of giant squid.
Oh, they've actually found them. Yeah, it's a thing.
However, when the myth of the kraken was originally developed, they had no fucking clue what a giant squid was.
Right.
It was, that's a big ass monster out there. And like they've noted like on whales, the scarification on whales, because whales are one of the few sea creatures that can travel extreme depths, which is the home region to giant squid. Right. So it's not uncommon to think that a giant squid may mistake a ship
for a whale
as an aggressive foe or possibly, anything that would just be intruding on its space.
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing with sharks. 9 times out of 10, when they go to bite someone, they think you're a fucking seal. And then they're like, oh, you taste like shit, never mind. But by then, usually it's too late.
In defense of sharks, most people do look like seals.
I'm not disagreeing with that. My favorite part is the surfer who goes out into the water and he's like, oh, there's a shark isn't going to bite me. It's like, dude, you're literally giving him the reason to bite you.
Right. I mean, since the dawn of time, whether it's on land or sea, humans have been invading creature habitats from the dawn of time.
And it is the one place that I refuse to go. I'm like, sorry, dude. You know what? You can have your yard. I'm good here.
And I mean, we honestly we can't damn animals for protecting their territory because that's what they know.
No, it's an animal is driven by instinct, just like humans. Whenever they defend their home from an intruder, it's self-defense. It's their hunting grounds, things like that. The only reason why we don't kill each other for hunting grounds now is because everybody thinks we're civilized, but we're not.
Right. But like going back to
Mermaids.
The Kraken thing.
Yeah.
In the Norwegian language, it actually means unhealthy animal or something twisted. So so by that rationale, anything that they couldn't identify that was large in the water could refer to as a kraken.
Huh.
And
they wrote it as such. It's kind of like writing about UFOs, which simply means unidentified flying objects. To them, that would be the kraken would be the version of that, which is
absolutely
no matter what animal it is, they just deem it kraken.
And going back to pirate lore, which you could go back in time to the beginning of any maritime lore. Water did not have the purification processes that we have now. Therefore, they added alcohol to water to basically kill the bacteria. Now, when you add alcohol to a feeble sea-traveled mind, anything you see could be twisted.
Right.
It could be kraken. Like they could picture mermaids. They could picture sirens. They could be hearing shit. They could be seeing shit. They could be hallucinating. Everything from, like even just cabin fever, being cooped up on that boat, not being able to see land. It's caused people to lose their shit.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, these maritime myths, I could see it as totally plausible as seeing something that is not really there, but I know me having a twisted ass mind.
You could see how people could get to that point.
Yeah. I could definitely see how you could get there. Like I'm the type of person that I could like look at a wood grain pattern and see a face in it. Shit like that. So it's not unrealistic to think that's how a lot of this came about.
Right. So what you're saying is basically these things did take place, the legend and lore and myth. The question is simply, was it a feeble mind on alcohol being stuck with a bunch of men together who have butt sex but don't really have butt sex because hush hush? And especially like when you're out in the middle of the ocean, all you hear is silence and the waves. Your mind, to try and salvage your sanity, will try and make up sounds in the process, thus causing all types of chaos. So, in truth, any type of thing that's written down about krakens and sirens, mermaids, that sort of thing, came from reality somewhere.
Right.
Which I've always been of the belief that myth and legend is based off of reality somehow, some way.
Somewhat. Honestly, every story that's ever been told had to be based off of something.
Right.
It's all a matter of the twist that the individual telling the story puts on it. It's basically...
It's the circle of the 12 monkeys. One at the tops tells the next one next to them the story. By the time it gets back around to the other side, the story is completely twisted.
It's like, you start the rumor at one end of the lunchroom and see what it is by the time you leave the lunchroom.
Right.
It just, everybody puts their own little twist on it because they've got to tell that fucking story better than the guy that told them. you know. So it's like that wow factor. You got to take that into account as well. I mean, like, and see, I'm not ready to shift the gear to this one yet. But here's a pretty good segue from where we're at.
Sure.
Along with mermaids and sirens and the kraken, tales of sea serpents. Okay. Now, that kicks me into belief, and obviously there's scientific proof that dinosaurs existed, but is it unrealistic to think that maybe the dinosaurs were some form of dragon that did exist beyond where their extinction platform was?
I was infatuated with dinosaurs when I was a little kid. I actually wanted to be a paleontologist, if you can believe that. The question I have in response to that is, which is the dragon based off of? Is the dragon based off of the dinosaur, or is the dinosaur based off of the dragon? Is what you're asking? Which one?
Well, like for example, like I said, if you look at like old pirate maps, they always have the sea serpent, the wavy sea serpent. Now,
Chinese water dragon.
Looking into Eastern culture, is the Eastern dragon, which is always a serpent body.
Chinese water dragon,
face.
yes.
Right.
And the mountain dragon is the bushy one.
Right. And then if you look at a lot of the depictions of Western dragons, they strongly resemble some dinosaurs. As far as the reptilian nature of them, the body structure, you know, hybriding dinosaurs, if you will, you know. It's kind of like one of those fan theories that I've kind of been jumbling around in my head since I started reading up more on this shit. That maybe, I mean, and even like some of the shit that's out now, like you had mentioned before we started the recording, was about the Meg, about this huge ass megalodon, which, as we all know, a megalodon was a prehistoric creature, you know, along the lines of the dinosaurs.
The great-great-grandfather of the great white shark.
Now, granted, I mean, it's a far fucking stretch. But is it possible that perhaps some of these creatures have existed in excess outside of their extinction platform?
You're suggesting that they lived in human times. That's the actual issue on that one. I gotta say, I don't think so.
Think about how much of the Congo and the Amazon jungle.
Oh yeah, you want to go down that route?
Have been unexplored.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you want to go
a
down
lot
that
of
route.
things that have happened that are unexplained.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the whole Bigfoot.
There's how much of the ocean that
has
never been explored.
Yeah. Or
you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've only explored 7% of the ocean. It's
right. It's there's a lot of open ground.
I mean, even to quote one of your heroes, I don't know if I actually want to call him a hero, but Samuel L. Jackson flat out said he doesn't understand why we want to explore space when we haven't even explored the depths of our oceans.
We got to have our hands in everything, I guess.
Well, he does make a good point. I mean, if we're worried about overpopulation of the Earth, land, even though that's not true, we honestly can't even all fit. We can all fit within Alaska with plenty of room. But there's plenty of places where we can actually live underwater if we were willing to explore.
Right.
I'm not trying to veer off topic. I'm just saying that, yeah, because we have not explored, there are possibilities, but then it all comes down to ecosystem. What type of animal size would be able to live with readily food source that's able for them to sustain life?
Well, I mean,
plus in mass numbers, you can't do that whole. There's one or two out there because fuck all.
But look at just the theory and the concept behind Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
It was literally a single self-contained ecosystem on an uncharted island that had these massive animals and dinosaurs and underground creatures and this giant fucking ape. But humans actually cohabitated with all of these creatures in this ecosystem. Like I said, there's a huge percentage of the world that has never even been discovered yet, so to speak. And is it unrealistic to assume that it could possibly exist?
I believe that anything is possible if the facts are even willing to lean towards it. But once again, it comes down to the conversation that we had before I started recording the Meg situation, where we saw on YouTube, or I saw on YouTube, one of, I think it was Cinema Sins or something like that. They said 10 things that the Meg got wrong. And one of the big ones was that the megalodon lived under this cloud of sulfur in the water, which was like a roof that they didn't know existed, so they never went above it into our world. Now, they basically, in the movie, it wasn't just one Meg that was down there. It was lots of them. The problem with that is that the readily food source for the size of these creatures made it would have made it impossible for them to survive. So
they would have to turn to cannibalistic acts.
Yeah, but then it comes down to, the question is, if what you're saying is possible, then I would have to lean towards, well, it's got to be a Godzilla type, where they get their food source not from actually eating, but through like photosynthesis or things like that. You know how Godzilla is, right? Where he drinks in radiation, and that's his actual sustenance, and that's how he's able to survive. So...
But, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where, I mean, there's natural proof of the existence of these creatures in the past. It wouldn't be outworldly to think that maybe a few slipped through the cracks.
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to go all crazy on people, but I like the idea and believe in the idea of the Loch Ness Monster.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like a dinosaur / sea monster.
I think it's a fantastic...
in and of itself.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Plausible? Possibly. But once again, size, ecosystem, readily food source, wouldn't be able to spot. Not to mention, not being spotted, but quote-unquote spotted. That quote-unquote spotted leads me to believe that it's not real. That saddens me. But I like the idea. I want that to be true. Like, I want to see that man hasn't fucked it all up. But we're stupid. Mm-hmm. If there are Bigfoots out there, Big Feet, Bigfoot, what the fuck ever, if they actually exist, we'll find them and we'll kill them.
Yeah.
Like any other creature that you're discussing right now, where there's a possibility that they might exist, we will find them and we will kill them. That's how we are, and we're fucking stupid for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, man is responsible for the majority of extinction events.
Yeah. I think we are an extinction event. Plain and simple.
But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good pretty good coverage of sea-related myths that I was looking at. I mean, it's just, like I said, it was just one of those things where it's like, it's just amazing how it's just one little search about mermaids landed me on dragons.
Well, I can say this before we switch topics, because it seems like you want to switch topics. After watching Jeremy Wade and River Monsters, I can honestly tell you that yes, anything is actually possible living in the oceans and the waters.
Yeah, because I've seen some of the things that he's pulled out of them rivers,
and you're like,
and
oh hell, fuck no! Like,
Yeah,
how is
it
that
scares
even
the shit out of
possible? Yeah.
You know, but I think we're going to take a quick break here.
Yeah, apparently Tiberius needs to go out.
Switch a couple of gears, freshen up the coffee because, unfortunately, unlike at a coffee shop, we don't have a waitress to top us off. So,
Janice!
when we come back, we're going to hit a little bit of folklore.
Ooh.
And hope you join us for that. So, until we get back, I'm Wayne,
I'm Brandon.
and we'll catch you next time.
Okay.